Okay, so hi everybody, my name's Erin. I am the marketing manager for Decentralized Energy Canada. And I just wanted to give a brief introduction to Impact Careers, which is the overarching program of our webinar today, which encourages everybody to take action and choose a career in sustainability. A little bit about Decentralized Energy Canada. We are a national industry association dedicated to the development of decentralized energy. We have roughly 100 members that range from startups all the way to large corporate organizations and everybody in between. And our bread and butter is connecting our members to business development opportunities, both nationally and globally. You're welcome to check us out at deassociation.ca for more information to become a member or learn more about us. And more information on why we're putting on Impact Careers. So the main goal of this program is to identify the jobs of the future and how the UN's SDGs are going to be integrated into the job market. And our main objective is connecting job seekers to sustainable employers. And I wanted to give a quick shout out to our program partners. Impact Careers wouldn't be possible without you guys: Schneider Electric, EHRC, Women in Power, and Alberta Innovates. And that's it for me. If you have any questions, my information can be found on the screen. And without further ado, I will pass it off to Shatish to start his presentation.
Perfect. Thank you, Erin. Okay, so you can see my screen, right? Hello, everyone. My cuckoo clock just went on. This is Kshitij Agarwal. I am the VP of Sales for Canada Operations. I'm based out of Toronto, and this is a topic which is extremely close to our heart. You know, at Schneider Electric. I'll cover a little bit about Schneider Electric in the upcoming slides. But this is one topic which has been an integral part of our DNA, not just recently, but it goes as long back as 2005. What is Schneider? You know, it's a company which has evolved in leaps and bounds in North America. Some people know us as Quedi, some people know us Federal Pioneer, some people know us as Telemechanic. These are the companies which we have acquired over the past 100 years and have grown into one big organization. But today, Schneider is all about creating the purpose, you know, to drive a sustainability mission, and we want to be your digital partner for sustainability and efficiency. And we take a pride when we say that we are the market leaders in energy automation, and energy management and industrial automation. And the reason why I say so, because for us, we don't see it as different businesses. For us, we see it as one connected ecosystem revolving around sustainability as a main DNA of the overall strategy of all the corporates, all the governments, all the different agencies we have to drive the common agenda. Where will you find us? I guess everywhere, right? Starting from your home, you go to the electrical panel, you will see us in the oil and gas segment, you will see us in the mining segment, you will see us in the food and bev segment, you will see us in the water. We are very integrated in your day-to-day lives, because our motto is, how do we make life is on, whether it is for a home owner, whether it is for an industrial user, whether it is for a commercial user. And we do work with the global companies, and we do have a strong presence in the local markets. This is what I'd like to say about Schneider Electric, right? We're the most global and the local company in the world with the way we have set ourselves up. And one thing which definitely helped us a lot, right? The way we structured ourselves globally, that we kept the regional setup even before pandemic, right? So it made us being closer to our customers, closer to our end users, and be able to translate what are some of the best practices we are seeing globally into the local markets. In Canada, again, a proud setup, you know, 2,100 employees, even though I'm part of the commercial organization, but we have 4 global R&D sites in Canada. We have 3 manufacturing sites. We have 29 offices across Canada, and we have 340 distributors. Sometimes, I've been in Canada for the past 5 years, and sometimes we don't understand the real contribution that Canadian setup has done for Schneider Electric. Just to put it in the context, Canada is in the top 10 countries for Schneider globally. So we have a big contribution that we do to the Schneider Electric globally, and we are often treated as a test bed for all the new technologies that we want to deploy. Now, in terms of what we are doing for sustainability, and as I was saying, it is a topic which is close to my heart. We were ranked #1 globally as the most sustainable company in the world by Corporate Knights this year. Well, this was very encouraging, because as I said, sustainability is not new. If you see on the little small slot at the left corner of the screen, we have been reporting our sustainability barometer since 2005. We went to an extent that in 2011 we put it in the incentives of all our leadership team, and in 2014 we included as a core governance within our HR and the CSR responsibility board committee. And it's very satisfying to see us getting recognized with what we have done internally, not just by Corporate Knights, but with multiple boards, with Bloomberg, with the CDP. We are in the A list for the last 10 years. With the Bloomberg, we have been with inception, and it's even more satisfying to see how we keep improving our scores, based on the submittals that we do against a set of KPIs, how for the past 4 years we have been continuously able to improve these scores. So very satisfying results internally, and a lot that we have learned, and next we'll show how we are using it. So in terms of Schneider commitment, well, you saw 17 strategic, the Sustainable Development Goals, which the United Nations has. We are heavily committed to the 6 long-term commitments. Obviously, the first one is no surprise. We are acting proactively to make the climate positive world. We all have to do with less. So how do we become more efficient with resources? How can we do it in the most ethical way so that we can create the best trust amongst not only internally, but with our customers, with our suppliers? How do we leverage the diversity we have across all the generations, gender equality? How do we create equal opportunities for everybody? And as I said, last one is special, right? That how do we empower local communities, right? How do we leverage the knowledge which these local communities have, and how can we help them with what we have learned globally and bring it to the local communities? So again, very close to our heart, these 6 commitments, and we have the KPIs which we declare our results on quarterly basis. The carbon pledge, well, this is where it becomes a little bit more scientific, right? So we want to be the leader towards the 1.5 degrees Celsius climate objective. That's a pledge which the UN is making to reduce the carbon footprint, and that is when it starts going a little bit granular. So long story short, what we have said that by 2050 we will be a net zero carbon dioxide supply chain without buying any offsets, right? So that's the vision, and now we are working backwards. How do we get there? We figured that by 2040 we need to have the end-to-end carbon neutral value chain, right? With using the technology and with the CO2 offsets. In order for us to do that by 2030, at least in the scope 1 and scope 2 emission, which is an emission which is under the control of your individual organization, we want to be carbon neutral, and we obviously know where we stand today, right? So we, by 2025, which is the nearest future, we want to be carbon neutral with the CO2 offsets in our scope, and we are working upstream and downstream to identify the suppliers and working with the supply chain how to keep deploying the technology and make it less and less carbon dioxide emission across the value chain. Well, and the good thing is we are not alone, right? So we see all these fancy names, all the Fortune 500 companies, they have a pledge of their own. We all heard Microsoft will be carbon negative by 2030. We all heard Apple is taking a carbon neutral pledge by 2030. We are working closely with a lot of these companies. We talk about the Walmarts, we talk about the Verizon, and so it's not a new thing. I guess it's becoming more and more advertised, and I guess this is also helping us align with a lot of other corporations, right? Because it's an easy thing to say, yes, we want to be carbon neutral, but a lot of the companies, the small size companies, the mid size companies, they don't know how to get there. The carbon taxes will increase from $20 per ton to $170 per ton by 2030. It's a cost the company is having, and we're already sitting in 2021, end of 2021. So we are now having these discussions with what we have learned internally and what we can help with our customers. So I was saying, well, we are leading by example in our own ecosystem. You saw the 6 pledges we have. We were recognized globally. We have created a dedicated sustainability division with the principal consultants internally, and now we are using all the knowledge that we have gained in helping our customers with managing their carbon dioxide annually. We are currently managing 125 million megatons. We are leading the procurement of or renewing the PPAs for a lot of companies. We are digitizing the assets, which is helping to drive more sustainability. And we have as I said, right, we have the global experts in over 100 countries. Now, how do we do it, right? So for me, sustainability is not just a jargon, right? So it's an iterative journey. It needs to happen by bringing sustainability at the core of any strategy. It cannot be a separate strategy. We need sustainability to be a part of the core strategy. We need to understand the existing landscape of an organization, where they are, what they are doing. Are they able to map the data? Data is the key, right? How and what the data is able to extract from the different assets that the organization has. Then is the data that we are having, what is it telling? What are the quick fixes? Can we do it by changing some of the resources that we use? Can we go towards more renewable resources versus the grid resources? How do we make the operations more efficient? And then how do we keep the analytics going on to ensure that we are doing what we say we wanted to do? So it's an iterative journey. It's not going to be a flip of a switch that will happen overnight. We need to really understand, work hand in hand with the customer to really define what the ambition is, and then figure out a path and a journey with the customer. And in Schneider, as I said, right, the sustainability is not something which is a separate strategy. It needs to be a part of the core strategy. We figured out 5 steps which we felt is something important to talk about. It starts with setting up a bold, actionable strategy. What is that we are trying to do? Are we trying to focus on the scope 2 emission? Are we trying to focus on scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions? What is that we are trying to do from a circular economy perspective? How we are trying to leverage that? Is the goals that we have set up are measurable or not? And if not, how can we extract the data? Then we come to the second step, where we are talking about facility designs. What assets do we have? Are they connected? They are not connected. What the architecture is about? Are they using the products which are green, and so on and so forth? Once we got that part done, we talk about how do we make it more efficient, right? So when these products are connected, what is the data saying? Are they underutilized, overutilized? Are we optimizing the performance? Are we reducing the OPEX? So on and so forth. Are we do we have the latest technology? Is the infrastructure aging? What we can do with the existing infrastructure, so on, and the next steps. The next one is buying renewable energy, right? I know this is something I've been challenged on in Canada, because we do have clean energy coming in a lot of locations. We go to Quebec, it's mostly hydro. We go to BC, it's mostly hydro. But how can we help the other provinces where the energy is not that clean, so that we can take care of the scope 2 emissions? And how can we build a business case together where we look at the carbon taxes that is going to come up by 2030, and if buying the renewable energy reduces the capex to opex journey. And then the last one, how do we decarbonize the supply chain? And this is where the real commitment comes into play, right? With how do you work with your suppliers, whether the suppliers are green by themselves, the way they are procuring, the way they are producing, and how do you work with the supply chain for your customers? So as I said, it is an iterative journey. With every company I have spoken with, there are obviously low-hanging fruits, but we need to have a commitment from both the side. At Schneider, we have a group of dedicated consultants who walks the customer through what the journey is. So look, if you have more questions, I'm happy to answer. And I saw that in the following, my co-panelists will be talking more about the climate actions, and I'm happy to take more questions at the end. Thanks a lot. Over to you.
Thanks again. Thanks again, Kshitij, for the great presentation. Next up, we have Stephanie from Foresight. So I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Erin. Let me get my screen going. Great. Thank you to DEC for giving me the opportunity to present today. My name is Stephanie Bailey. I have recently accepted the role of Regional Director of Alberta for Foresight Canada, and I'm excited to tell you about the opportunities that for climate action from the perspective of a clean technology accelerator. Okay. So today I'll be talking about Foresight's role in the clean technology industry, explaining why climate action is my North Star. And finally, I'll be discussing the interconnectedness of some of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. As Canada's clean tech ecosystem accelerator, we support the identification and validation of clean tech opportunities and the successful commercialization of solutions. We bring together industry, government, academia, investors, and innovators to address today's most urgent climate issues and support from a global transition to a green economy. We contribute, oops, next slide. Oh, wrong direction. Oh no, sensitive mouse, sorry guys. So we contribute to building a clean tech ecosystem through programs and services, including accelerator programs, innovation challenges, market research, strategic partnerships, and cluster building. Foresight's business model focuses on 3 objectives. The first is breaking down silos. We believe that achieving climate goals takes a collaborative approach. We foster collaboration by bringing together industry, innovative technology providers, investors, academics, and governments to strategically solve problems. Number 2, by assisting in the scaling of technology. We support ventures in bringing their technology to market quickly and cost effectively. And number 3, by accelerating the adoption of technology. The quicker that our ventures are able to commercialize their solutions, the sooner we are on a path to achieving climate targets and transitioning to a green economy. The North Star. When you do a Google search on the North Star, you get a lot of interesting returns. A lot of them are on astronomy, but a lot of them are also on business solutions. And some of the business solutions suggest that you need a strategy or a framework or a roadmap in order to get from point A to point B. And that's really what your North Star is. It's your compass. It also suggests that you need metrics and milestones to help you achieve your goals towards your North Star. When you work for a company whose sole purpose is to work on clean technologies and make the economy greener, climate action is kind of imperative to our existence. A more meaningful question that you'd want to ask a tech accelerator is, why do you do what you do? Why have you chosen climate action and a green economy as your North Star? I recently joined the clean technology sector after several years of working in the oil and gas industry. Most of that time in the oil and gas industry, I worked on climate initiatives. So looking at climate change policy, looking at scenario analysis and climate forecasting. And also looked at ESG. In the last few years, we've seen ESG emerge as a huge topic for the investment community. Investors and shareholders are getting a little bit more business savvy, and it's not just about the bottom line. They're also interested in the impacts that the company has on society and the environment in the way that they're producing their products or sharing their services. One of the most important things that's come out of ESG has been target setting. A lot of the targets that we see are related to climate targets. It's emissions reduction. Company X wants to reduce its emissions by a certain percent by a certain date. And a lot of these are metrics that investors and stakeholders are closely following. In the last few years, we've seen net zero by 2050 be the goal. It's what most companies are announcing as an aspirational goal. Some companies have a way of getting there. They've already mapped this out. They know what they're going to have to do to meet these climate target reductions. Other companies are relying on technologies yet to be invented. And that's where a company like Foresight plays a role. We look to foster companies with great ideas that are going to help us through the energy transition. Companies that have solutions to mitigate whether it's methane emissions or carbon emissions from a stack, or whether it's looking for alternative energies that don't involve emissions. And we look to bring these companies in and help foster them and set them on a path to be successful, whether it's working with angel investors or working with industry itself to develop, pilot, and commercialize these solutions. Remembering that the ultimate goal of a business is to maximize the investment for its shareholders, we often do it at the expense of people in the environment. And while companies don't actively seek to be bad polluters, they're not properly incentivized to make green decisions. Green projects often have to compete against traditional capital projects. And as long as paying a carbon tax is a relatively low-cost alternative to deploying capital funds, the tax will be the means for climate action, and it won't be effective, not in time to prevent further damage, and not in time to ensure a smooth transition to a greener economy. So why did I choose clean tech? I wanted to be a catalyst for change. I wanted to leverage my experience working in industry and understanding how government policy is influenced and how government policy is made, and using strategy and policy to foster collaboration with innovators and academics that my peers at Foresight bring to the table. Oop, wrong direction. Okay, nope. Getting there, sorry again. While climate action is fundamental to the clean tech sector and the growing green economy, we can't overlook the interconnectedness of the Sustainable Development Goals. Foresight has developed programs that focus on specific areas of interest in the clean tech industry. While climate action is our driving force, there's alignment with many other sustainable development goals. Canada has an opportunity through clean tech innovation to increase food production and resiliency, and to reduce and even reverse waste and emissions. In the face of population growth, changing consumer preferences, declining available arable land, and growing climatic uncertainty, opportunity and innovation is an urgent imperative. We consider other SDGs. Number 1, no poverty. Number 2, zero hunger. Number 3, good health and well-being. Number 11, sustainable cities and communities. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. And number 15, life on land. We consider these SDGs as stars in a constellation that guide AgriNext. Agriculture has a long history in the prairies. Many of our grandparents, parents, and even our peers grew up on family farms. AgriNext seeks to innovate farming through technology to increase crop yields and crop nutrition, to support plant protein production, to utilize intelligence, such as artificial intelligence and robotics, to manage crops, nutrition of crops, irrigation of crops, and to aid in robotics to aid in harvesting of crops. Climate change and drought, population growth, and urbanization pose significant threats to water systems across our planet. Half of the world's population will be living in water-stressed areas by 2025. That's really soon, according to the World Health Organization. Clean water is fundamental to human well-being, economic prosperity, and environmental health. SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation. Number 11, sustainable communities, cities and communities. Number 12, responsible consumption and production. Number 14, life below water, are all stars in the constellation that guides WaterNext. Canada's water technology ecosystem extends across many of the country's largest sectors, including utilities, energy, mining, agriculture, manufacturing, and encompassing more than 750 water technology companies, enablers, and resource organizations from coast to coast. There's an urgent demand for clean technology solutions as heavy industry sets its sight on the bold goal of net zero emissions by 2050. Despite growing consensus of their importance in decarbonization, deployment of carbon CCUS technologies has been too slow. The primary reason is policy uncertainty, and most carbon collection, utilization, sequestration technologies are not ready for broad deployment at industrial scale. Number 7, affordable clean energy. Number 8, decent work and economic growth. Number 9, industry innovation and infrastructure. And number 12, responsible consumption and production are all SDGs that guide CarbonNext. While climate action is Foresight's North Star, as you can see, the constellation of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals provide an essential tool for navigating our transition to a cleaner, greener economy. I look forward to your questions at the end. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephanie. That was a great presentation. I'm going to pass it off to Martin to start his.
Thank you very much. I will share my screen. Great to be here today. So I'm Martin, the founder and CEO at the Beer Distillery. We are a green tech company that specializes in nature-based solution, restoration, return to production of all type of degraded land around the world. Today I will talk about how nature-based solution can help offset the environmental footprint of renewable energy projects. And let me talk a little bit about let's start with minerals. You know, any clean energy technologies need a lot of metal and minerals. Mostly, a lot of these minerals, we need 5 to 10 times more of them to produce the same amount of energy than when you produce it from fossil fuels. So it's an important part to mention. And so the mining sector will have a very important role to play in the transition toward a low carbon economy. But if it's not if it's not done right, if it's not done sustainably, it can just bring a problem to the next one. I mean, because In the past, the mining sector had a lot of problem with the environmental liabilities. You can see here a photo, a picture where a lot of projects right now around the world, they have a hard time to get the social license because the social acceptability, because of these past environmental liabilities that have impacted negatively these communities. So that's a very important part, that if we want to make sure that we have a clean energy sector that will be sustainable, we need to push forward in the extractive sector to ensure that everything it does sustainably. And sustainable restoration of the mine site after mining, it's very important. And also ensuring that these projects have a positive impact on all levels: social, environmental, economic, and the nature-based solution can play an important role in these type of projects. Also, when you look at those clean energy sector projects, you still, even if there's a lot less emission than fossil fuel projects, you still have some emissions. So, and about 99% of all GHG emission from the renewable energy sector come from the construction of the infrastructure. When you build up these wind farms, these solar farms, and the rest is mostly from the operation. So it also, we are going towards a net zero carbon neutral economy. It's very important that these remaining emission will be offset or reduced as much as possible and offset to reach carbon neutrality. And nature-based solution can also play a very important role on that side. Also, when we are creating these new infrastructure, these clean energy infrastructure, we usually have some loss of biodiversity because you need to clear the land to build the infrastructure. So it also causes some biodiversity loss, that when you have a landscape approach with nature-based solution, you can offset these losses and ensure you have a positive impact on biodiversity. So that's also, so one thing I want to bring to that presentation is that bringing a nature-based solution aspect in all these projects related to renewable infrastructure, transport, extractive sector, you can help these projects have positive impact on all levels because you restore the land that was degraded when you have done the activities, and also increase the landscape resilience with new forests and agroforests that become a natural buffer against extremes like storms or flooding or stuff like that could have an impact on your infrastructure. So not only you can have a positive impact on communities, but also on your projects, because you create these natural buffer that can protect the water source, that can protect the infrastructure against big storms, or all these type of projects. But also you can offset all your biodiversity loss. So let's say you're building a solar farm, like 5,000 hectares. But if you have a nature-based solution project aspect on the landscape on another 5,000 or 10,000 hectares, you can ensure that you have a positive impact on biodiversity, even if you had to destroy some to establish the projects. And by restoring mangrove, by restoring forests, by any type of natural ecosystem, you can also do a lot of carbon removal. And I know Stephanie was talking about CCUS, but right now the most effective carbon removal technology on the planet, it's trees and soil. So and it's a lot cheaper than anything else. And right now there are 2 billion hectares of degraded land around the world. Half could be used for agriculture, agroforestry, and the other half for forestry and natural ecosystem restoration. And so that aspect bring a lot of impact at all levels, because you're working with communities, you're creating a lot of new revenues opportunities related to the nature positive commodities like timber, agri-food products, stuff like that. We also create a lot of ecological services that are related to the carbon and the biodiversity that any project developer of renewable energy can benefit from. And also it can help ensure you get the social license, like I was talking about earlier, because a lot of these projects usually they mostly benefits only the developer and the owner of the projects. But if you bring that nature-based solution aspect into your project at the landscape level, you start bringing a lot of positive impact to the communities. That brings a lot of value and can ensure that you would obtain and maintain that social license related to the projects. And I could give you some example project we have been involved or in discussion related to nature-based solution. On the left, it's a mining project that will be 100% electric, and they have a goal to be carbon neutral. They are producing graphite in Canada, and it will gonna be the first 100% electric project and carbon neutral project. So both on the mining and the transformation aspect of the mining project for the graphite. And what we are doing with them is that we are taking care of all the restoration strategy on the mining side to ensure they will do it sustainably and they won't have any problem when they are done mining, doing progressive restoration, but also developing a local project. We are in discussion to do a reforestation project located in the landscape close to there to go and sequester a lot of carbon, to remove a lot of carbon, so it can offset all its emission that it has every year to reach its goal. And because we are in Canada and productivity is low, what we push forward is that at Veresta we have developed a product called Trees of Life. It's not a cost to restore and offset your emission anymore, restore forests and offset your emission. It's an impact investment that generates return. So if we can mix a local project that have huge positive impact to the extractive project, but at the same time bring that solution, a hybrid solution with Trees of Life, where we do a lot of restoration, the tropics, where the productivity is a lot higher, and we are able to bring financial return. So we are able to ensure that the mid and long term, that investment on nature-based solution was not a cost, was because you get all the principal you invested at the beginning, or you even get some financial returns related to the investment that you made earlier in that project. On the right one is that we have been in discussion with train projects, electric train projects that they abroad and also in Canada. To build the infrastructure and everything, they have to destroy hotspot, biodiversity hotspot in some places in tropical forests or whatever. So they have that aspect that if they want to ensure that project be sustainable and also responsible, they need to ensure that the offset for all the construction related to the carbon emission, but also on the loss of biodiversity caused by the building of these infrastructure. And that's where bringing that nature-based solution part can bring a lot of value related to these projects, not only to protect the infrastructure, but also to offset all the carbon and the biodiversity impact, negative impact it had during the construction of the project. So this can be done on any type of construction, transport, infrastructure, extractive, renewable projects, and it's not a cost anymore. It can bring a lot of value. Like for example, the mining sector need a lot of water, so working in the landscape level can allow to restore this landscape and protect the water sources. So the benefits are incredible when you bring that nature-based solution. And there are ways we can do it, and it's not a cost for the developer. And usually when you look at the cost, for example, of a train, it's usually in the $1 billion. Nature-based solution, it's usually a few tens of millions of dollars investment so when you bring it, the cost, the initial investment you need to do, it's not a big part compared to the rest of the investment you are doing. And also and getting paid later on with the return. So there's a lot of potential that your project will be more sustainable, more responsible. It will help you reach carbon neutrality and even more carbon negativity. And at the same time, it was not a lot of work to be done, and created a lot of value to all stakeholders involved. And at one point about the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, in all the projects we are related, we follow the impact. We have 2 or 3 metrics for each of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And we have a digital platform that allows for the partners to follow directly all the activities that are done related to the restoration and nature-based solution, all the projection of the impacts, the biodiversity, carbon, financial returns, and all the real data over time. So it becomes very transparent and traceable, so anybody can follow the activities. And I can tell you that there are not too many projects that can have bigger impacts on the 17th Sustainable Development Goal than restoring degraded land and degraded landscape. And I could show you data if you want to show you how much value you can create doing these projects. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Martin. I'm going to switch into Q&A. Looks like we have one here from Anouk. For all the presenters, what role does government and regulations have to play in real climate action? It does not seem enough to show the value that is created.
I'll go for it. Okay, go ahead, Martin.
But for me, there are 2 ways for climate action: reduction and compensation. And when you look at nature-based solution, a lot of the sector in itself, a lot of people consider a sector to be renewable energy, but 20-25 years ago. So, and for me, for us, the government has played a very important role to early on de-risk these projects, the renewable project, become the first clients and move forward, allowing to develop this industry that was able to reduce the cost of energy produced over time. So for us there is a very important role where the government can bring de-risking solution to help the industry and the sector develop itself, so it can support renewable energy project and can support all the project to reach carbon neutrality.
Yeah, and just to complement Martin, right? So it's it's about both, right? So how do we enable the deployment of technologies, which will eventually help us with the carbon reduction? At the same point in time, how do we de-incentivize some of the existing technologies and create a path for carbon neutrality, right? So government play a critical role in ensuring that the commitment is there top down, right? Because if we just leave it to the private world, right? So then it is left onto what the individual companies are committing to and delivering on those commitments, right? So I think it's the public-private partnership which is very important to drive this kind of agenda anywhere across the world.
Thanks.
And whether it is enough or not on that question, I guess it is to be seen, right? I think the increase that we see in just purely in the carbon taxes itself can be quite steep, from $20 per ton to $170 per ton. Right now, the companies don't feel the impact because they're not even measuring their carbon emission. But as soon as it becomes mandatory for them to measure it and to declare it, it will start hitting the bottom line of the companies, right? So for me, the companies who have not yet started on that journey, they are already behind the curve, right? So they have a lot of catching to do.
I would say I have a very different answer to this question than I had a year ago. Most of my career in oil and gas was spent on working on carbon policy, developing policy, and looking for kind of the optimum price point and the optimum emissions reductions that were achievable without too much pain to the industry. And not just the oil and gas industry, but industry as a whole. And a lot of that was because we wanted to increase kind of economic prosperity and ensure that there was money available to do research and development. Now, when I look at the flip side of that, as someone coming from clean tech, I think that the carbon tax is not necessarily the most effective way to make change. And I'll look at the energy industry in particular. If you look at the mandate from the federal government for the transition off of coal as the power supply and the transition from coal to natural gas, Alberta companies that are our largest producers of electricity are ahead of the curve on that transition. They really embraced the mandate to come off of coal and are coming off of coal, I think, almost 2 years ahead of schedule. In addition, they're prosperous companies. They've looked at alternative energies. They've looked at solar. They've looked at wind. They're looking at ways to improve and make the energy supply greener across Canada. I think it takes government action, and it takes the government to make more mandates. And if we look south of the border, there's a mandate for electric vehicles. As we start seeing a mandate, companies will rise to the occasion. They'll make the creative solutions that they need to survive in a new, greener economy. But until we see real leadership and until we see some demonstration that, yes, in fact, this is going to happen, it's going to be status quo and it won't be action fast enough.
Thanks, Steph. We have another question. How can life cycle analysis be further adopted to illustrate value? We aren't measuring properly most of the time.
I think that's a fantastic question, right? And that's what I was alluding to. What's the ambition, right? So when we talk about climate actions, what we talk about sustainability, the most important thing is to understand where we stand today. How are we going to use the data to capture all the metrics that we want to measure? And I believe it's not a surprise that a lot of the times this data points are not even existing. But that's not a worrying part, right? This is all doable based on the technologies that we have. Capturing the data is not exorbitant amount of capex. As I said, right, sustainability has to be a part of the strategy itself, and it will lead to all the life cycle analysis, all the data management to happen. Yeah, so there's a lot that is to be done on that side.
Did anybody else want to add to the question? No. Okay. Well, I think that's all the questions we had for today's presentation. So I'll go ahead and we'll end the webinar a couple minutes early. I wanted to say thank you to all of our presenters today for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedules. This webinar is being recorded, so it will be available to share with your network or send to a colleague who wasn't able to make it to the webinar today. But that's it from us, and thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you at the next one. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you.